Oh yeah.
Me the whole world lost you. How much you have for life? They want kill all we. They want kill all we.
Good evening. Welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news on top stories. I am Oni Okpala. Let's begin. Field Marshal Nsobu is no more. As we speak, he is dead, very dead. But looking through the eyes of the Amazonians, it is clear that his spirit lives on. Amazonia's architecture of self-determination during this liberation phase must not be dismantled, but requires technocrats and strategic leadership. Saturday's event was strategic. Speaker after speaker got participants inspired. One speaker inspired the Undaunted newsroom. He is a historian, writer, and freedom fighter, one of those who have stayed the struggle of free Amazonia from recolonization. He is none other than Pa Augustine Ndangam. Some observers say the presence of Pa Augustine Ndangam was a proof of legitimacy to the IG led by Dr. Sako. In today's Undaunted, we are going to dig deeper into issues surrounding the unfortunate assassination of Isobu. Our intelligence has it that Visom Paul Atangana, a journalist from neighboring La Republic de Cameroon who once worked in Boya, was assassinated last night and his genitals taken away because of his opinion. We'll give you details, but before we delve into that, let's get to the prime headlines.
Prime headlines. The first joint session of the Interim House of Representatives was a solemn occasion. Observers say the presence of Pa Augustine Ndangam was a proof of legitimacy to the IG. Report on what transpired in Kumbo LGA, Bui County on April 8, 2022 confirmed that Field Marshal Unsobu was betrayed and killed by coup plotters in alliance with the ADF. Responding to the commission by the President, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, the Department of Resource Mobilization is warming up to start the news. Now that the war in Ukraine replaces COVID-19 in the mainstream, what next? More than ever, we must stand by the legitimate government of Ambazonia led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. Analysis of the Premier League as we enter day 32 of the English Premier League.
The first session of the Interim House of Representatives IHR was watered by the blood of Martyr F.M. Isobu. Let us take this in-depth overview by Gab Ellison before getting into the crux of the matter.
As Christian faithfuls observe Lent, a period when Jesus Christ gave his life to redeem mankind, and like Stephen who was stoned, Field Marshal Unsobu spilled by the enemy in the house at this point in time, and on the eve of the summoning of the first session of the Interim House of Representatives of Ambazonia, reconforts every bona fide DNA true fighter under the President Sako-led IG that Boya is at hand. After all, neither Jesus Christ nor Stephen died for nothing. At the opening of this inaugural session, speaker after speaker paid homage to our fallen hero, Field Marshal Unsobu, beginning with the House Speaker, Dr. Winnie Lobati. The President, Dr. Sako, lambasted the killers who went celebrating the corpse as if telling their sponsors Yaoundé their crime report card. Dr. Sako was categorical that at first we trusted blindly in the beginning, but now we know them as stooges, liars, blackmailers, and manipulators. Whoever is not fighting our enemy is our enemy. What a shame. The President condemned all maneuvers and underground moves by enablers to pull him down and keep Ambazonians under eternal slavery, and promised such that time was over and the IG was ready to lock horns with every challenger through direct confrontation, not backstabbing and blackmail. He called for an emergency draft for Bui and increased vigilance. Pa Augustine Ndangam, one of the founding members of the Ambazonia liberation struggle, still living, stole the show at this inaugural session by taking participants through memory lane on suppression and repression. The long, torturous and tedious journey from the Eastern House of Assembly, Enugu, to the Cameroons from the 1940s till date. He gave a lesson on why leaders like Ndele, PM Gomjoa, and Foncha must be remembered and emulated by today's leaders, who, in spite of their differences in political ideologies and approach, still embraced one another, shook hands with one another, They demonstrated no animosity as witnessed today. They stood for the independence of the Southern Cameroons, but unfortunately, the UN refused to pay attention to the demand, the reason why we're fighting today. Pandangam's wise message at this very important joint session was a clarion call for those so-called leaders who are ego-driven and financially self-centered to abandon such egocentrism, look at the general interest now founded under the Sako-led IG in order to finish the work they started, because Boya remains irreversible. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Announcing the first joint session of the Interim House of Representatives a day to occasion on his Facebook page, the President, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, said, and I quote, "Today I will announce beforehand, it will be my pleasure to attend this virtual session with you and our international partners. This is a major auxiliary steps as we endeavor to cross-current our foreign policy and better integrate our democratic values with our diplomatic leadership. And you do not want to miss a single minute of the moment." Those were his words. It was indeed an occasion not to miss. Ambazonians participated from every corner of the world. It was instrumental for a time like this, when the nation needs to establish new relationship through responsible governance. Ambazonia's architecture of self-determination during this liberation phase must not be dismantled, but requires technocrats and strategic leaderships. Saturday's event was really strategic. Speaker after speaker got participants inspired. One speaker inspired the Undaunted newsroom. He is a historian, a writer, and freedom fighter. One of those who have stayed through the struggle to free Ambazonians from recolonization, he is none other than Pa Augustine Ndanga. Some observers say the presence of Pa Augustine Ndanga was a proof of legitimacy to the IG led by Dr. Sako. We have excerpts of his address to the joint session. Please watch.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for your kind invitation. And I want to wish this important arm of our interim government a success. I was looking at your invitation this morning to see if the link came in. And my interest was drawn to what was on that your invitation. I want to thank you and those your collaborators with whom you wrote that invitation. The thing that struck me on that invitation was the faces that you put on. And I just want to say one or two things about the four faces that are on your invitation, which I just looked at this morning. The face I want to start with this remark is the face in that invitation whose chair you, Madam Speaker, are sitting on. Honorable P.M. Kale, in our history, is important, and we will remember him for the moment that those pictures, the three of them behind, took. Our history, our struggle is one against repression and suppression. And I want you to see in that picture the face of the speaker, Mr. Kale, the face of Dr. Ndele, the face of Dr. Foncha. The three of them are smiling. And this is what we want to carry down into the country we want to build. Dr. Ndele and Mr. Kale were of the same party. He resigned and Dr. Ndele lost the election. But there they are meeting for the first time after the election, and all three of them smiling, and all three of them shaking hands. That is the spirit of democracy which we want to carry into our new country.
That was Pa Augustine in Dangam. Very inspiring, right? For 12 minutes, the mentor, historian, and writer, an individual that can rightfully be described as a living episode of the struggle from the 70s, a blessing to the nation of Ambazonia at this critical time of war. Daddy Augustine Ndangam will inspire Ambazonians. He pricked the minds of many with deep thoughts. Above all, proved to all watching that he was indeed an encyclopedia and a very valuable human resource for researchers. Activist Uchida Nelson, in reaction, said that Pa Augustine's presence legitimized the interim government of Dr. Sacco. Pa Augustine Dangam, in a holistic manner, gave more than enough reasons why PM Kale, John Ngo Foncha, EML Ndele, and Augustine Ngom Jua must be remembered as the foundations for real democracy in Ambazonia. Even before this, Madam Speaker of the Interim House of Representatives, Dr. Winnie Lobati had addressed the nation with all solemnity, and these were some of her starting words. His Excellency, the President of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Sacco, the Vice President of Ambazonia, Mr. Eric Ate, Chairman of the Apex, Mrs. Dorothy Mungwa, Chairman of the Judiciary Commission, Barrister Timothy Mbesia, members of the Ethics and Judiciary Commission, chairs and coordinators, Amba TV, Press Diplomatic Corps, you're all welcome to the People's House. Thank you for joining the people of Ambazonia through their representatives this early morning for a working joint session. I could be apologizing for waking you up too early, but I will not. Why? One, this one day alone, you're experiencing what our people are experiencing daily, weekly, or over the past 5 years. Uncertainty, disruption over their night sleep. May this disruption you had over the night motivate your struggles with a better vision and purpose, with a better Ambazonian purpose. We, the people of Ambazonia, came out for the Ambazonian Stakeholders Strategic Conference 2, and we voted on resolutions that will help amend our interim constitution. We did not seal those resolutions and seal them in an envelope box. These resolutions were intended to direct, guide, enhance, and provide and establish rules, laws to prosecute our struggle as a people with a democratic heritage which our parents enjoyed from 1954 to about 1968. We took the baton and the interim government is a proof, and the ASSC too attested to the fact that we are ready and have our eyes set for Boya and our people ready for self-governance, free from the encumbrances of an imposed taskmasters lobbying towards it. These imposed taskmasters are called religious leaders, traditional leaders as the case may be. The slave masters La République du Cameroon, France, and La République du Cameroon has not stopped their agenda which they have unscrupulously imposed on us. We, the representatives of the interim house, unanimously reject any form of oppression from France or from La République du Cameroon. We are going to work with every arm of government to put out a statement. We are not going to accept any statement that has been made by either France or La République du Cameroon. Such treaties signed will not be imposed, not today or in the future. It was about 18 minutes of heart-to-heart decision with the people of Amazonia. She literally spoke to everyone participating, to the president, the people, the international community, and this was how she concluded. Just watch.
No matter how good our interim government runs in diaspora, we long to see you all take offices in Boya soon. The best governance would be in Boya. The best is not necessarily the easiest. The best is rooted in our freedom. This free Ambazonia, we pray, which God has blessed us with, we pray that you will all join us at home front pretty soon. To those citizens of Ambazonia at home front, those internally displaced, those in prisons, those on ground one all the way to ground infinity. Please stay alive, be strong. D-Day of freedom will soon be here. As mentioned earlier, our fallen hero, your blood is not in vain. The tears of loved ones mingled with your blood is paving and fast paving the way to Buea. You paid the ultimate price. You shall never be forgotten. Our ARFs, we salute you. We are here because you are there. I will say again, we are here because you are there. We will also get there because you are there. So stand your ground, stay at your post, have a singular vision and focus, and we shall soon arrive Buea and join you there. To our parents, brothers, sisters, children, I would encourage, and we would encourage, support the ARFs. They are your shield against La République and any other hawks or warlords that are on the ground. Hold on. We are soon coming home. The fruit of freedom is sweeter than the momentary pain that you are experiencing. God bless you all too. May God bless Ambazonia, shortly the struggle, and long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia.
It is important to highlight that the first joint session of the Interim House of Representatives were in 3 parts. The first and the last parts were meant only for members of the House, during which it was time to put a new seal. More representatives for the House were voted, and then the old were replaced. The height of the moment came when the President addressed the House, the nation, and the international community. In his address, we saw a president that was sensitive to the plight of his people. Star Smart has the detail.
Indeed, Ambazonians have got for themselves a very sensitive president who acknowledges the efforts of everyone fighting to ensure Buea becomes a reality soon. He wouldn't without paying homage to the fallen hero FM Isobo. The president's address was made of rigor and vigor, encouragement and fulfillment, like how it should be. Now, let me read it in full. Dear honorable members of the House of Representatives, our heroes in the home front watching us on ABC, fellow Ambazonians, let's observe another moment of silence in honor of our fallen heroes, especially our very own FM Isobu. May their souls rest in power. Something tragic happened Friday, 9th April 2022. The Cameroon Army ADF militia, which repackaged itself as Unity Warriors in Buea County some months ago, ambushed and killed one of our very best in guerrilla warfare, FM Isobu of Buea. While on a mission with some of his lieutenants against enemy positions, the same LRC ADF militia for the past 5 years has killed many General Evo, Commander Tiger, General Amigo, General Bia Bia, FM Chacha, General Mano Tiger, and set up Major General Commando and others, including foot soldiers, to be killed. They slaughtered FM Isobu in cold blood without any provocation. He did not die by the sword of the enemy, he died by the sword of his own compromised brothers. This is sad. We even saw him in a video mocking the corpse of our hero and celebrated his fall as if to tell their counterparts in Yaoundé, mission has been accomplished. However, let every Yaoundé hired mercenary pretending to be for us but targeting our fighters and our structures know that they will all fail. This is not new. Comrades, these are corrupt cowards recycling a failed strategy of seeking a paycheck from the slave master instead of our total freedom through righteous resistance. What a shame. What height of depravity and anti-revolutionary madness. But the spirit of Ambazonia shall prevail against all odds. From the birth of our liberation quest till now, as we grew in character and through our countless words and actions in our interactions and interreactions, in all our sacrifices and trophies, 5 years down the road, all the leaders of our liberation have sufficiently defined themselves. We are no longer strangers to each other. In the beginning, you trusted blindly, giving each of us the benefit of the doubt. After years in the classroom, you know us today better than you did 4 or 5 years ago. We all have our track records and multitudes of witnesses on every side. Records of our mistakes and achievements, of our pride and in failure, or our humility in victory. Our weaknesses as we rise and fall, or our willingness to learn and rise. Those who want to take over the leadership of our hope by recasting the character or image of the others, using their social media presence or wasting their precious capital trying to split hairs. Instead of introducing themselves by the efficacy of their own original strategies and actions, facts are stubborn and very often it does not matter what we think or believe. Facts stand tall like monuments against every wind of blackmail, lies, falsehood, and manipulation. Like it or not, the interim government, despite the unkind beating, remains the key player and principal in this course full of obstacles. As goes the people, so goes the interim government. And as goes the interim government, so goes our struggle. Fear not, my dear compatriots, we shall overcome. I am calling on resource mobilization to organize an early draft 2022 in favor of the Boye warriors as a matter of national emergency. There are moments to be politically correct and there are also moments to be factually correct. So let me say it clear to all county leaders. If we do not stem out these eternal threats that we see in 1 or 2 counties, we will not make it to Boya in record time. For us to do so, we must understand that whoever is not fighting our enemy is our enemy's friend, and our enemy's friend or helper is our enemy. Please treat all your enemies in the war front equally. Fighting against some and uniting with others is a costly error. Honorable members of the House, I want to thank you for stepping up to serve the people of your constituencies at a time like this. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the honor to have me in your first post-inaugural session. Let me also recognize our stakeholders at this very important session convened by your House leadership. I have the honor to inform you all that pursuant to the ASSC2 resolutions, the Vice President proceeded to forward the Bill A01 to amend the Constitution to this House for immediate ratification. I urge the House to immediately table the bill for ratification in order to set the legal framework for the various laws relating to the constitutional and organizational reforms that we will be introducing progressively to the House in the days and weeks ahead. Fellow Ambazonians, I want to draw your attention to the recurrent news about some of our compatriots who have been trying secretly to negotiate with La République du Cameroon. We cannot dismiss all this with the back of the hand. Simply because they have failed at every instance, they failed because of your timely reaction to expose such chalantery. They failed because we all arose to reiterate the position of the interim government and the people of Ambazonia towards lasting just peace. So long as there are still people who want to cash in on the blood of our 35,000, so long as we have people who are constantly trying to trade our liberation quest for their personal or family interest, people who want to exchange our pain for their private gain. So long as we still have people who are mobilizing to kill our God-ordained struggle, slow down our resistance on the home front, join forces with our enemies to force us to a suicidal surrender using lies, manipulations, and corruption, our silence will no longer be golden. Some of these corrupt interlocutors are colonial stooges who have lost all legitimacy to represent the people of the Southern Cameroons. Some are known CPDM zealots, others are civil society imposters, so-called chiefs and funds, deserters in the diaspora, the refugees sojourning in French Cameroon and bankrolled by the bloody annexationists. Yes, since last year, I came to that conclusion in our revolution that going forward, silence would only be golden when the selfish and the cruel have all resigned from their endeavors. Let me take you down memory lane. Esti Muna in 1970 torpedoed the attempt of J.N. Foncha to bring Ahijo to the table to renegotiate or review the terms of our failed union with La République du Cameroon. He offered himself to French Cameroon as a willing spoiler to help them thwart the efforts of repentant nationalists led by J.N. Foncha. Mona was rewarded with the bogus post of vice president and premier of West Cameroon, enough peanuts for him and his family. In the early 90s, Ni John Fru Ndi hijacked an initiative by nationalists like Albert Mukong to create a Southern Cameroon party to fight for our rights. He instead transformed the SDF initiative into a so-called national party instead, which he later traded for a mouthful of peanuts, good enough for him and his family. The consortium thereafter arose in 2016 to fight for our rights, making the restoration of the 1961 Federation their key demand. Most of the consortium leaders were arrested and thrown in colonial jails. When Dikin Tasang on exile decided to transition our demands from federation to the restoration of our independence, the same consortium leaders truncated the move by clinging to La République du Cameroon for a one Cameroon solution without precondition. The consortium leaders worked with the late Cardinal Christine Toomey to promote the All Anglophone General Conference, and now the CDN aimed at finding a one Cameroon solution to shipwreck our independence restoration. They were given a so-called special status with nothing special in the status. Fast forward, we now have our own blue and white contractors rushing nicodemously to talk with La République du Cameroon, ready to enter a negotiated settlement with our annexationists without our knowledge and help them to kill our struggle for self-determination. Some already called for a unilateral ceasefire and it did not work because we said no. Others went to meet La République du Cameroon at Yaoundé, Archbishop's residence, and tried to exchange Ambazonia for the price of their freedom. It did not work because we said no. Some also went to meet the Baba Dampulo and Colonel Eko Maxime in West Africa, and others had meetings in the United States and were contracted to bring down Dr. Sacco, take over the cockpit of our struggle and change our destination to Yaoundé and no longer Boya. They succeeded to instrumentalize the defunct Restoration Council, manipulated a few disgruntled individuals, staged an unsuccessful coup against me. As I speak to you today, it is not yet over, because when passion is derailed, it becomes deadly and suicidal. These people wanted and still want to kill our struggle by all means possible, but you rose in your indignation to tell them no, enough is enough. You arose in your power, so they are doomed to fail. That notwithstanding, let this be a new dawn in Ambazonia. We disagree to agree. The weak solve problems by elimination, the brave solve them by confrontation. There are problems you can never avoid, but we cannot avoid disagreements with our fellow colleagues, just as we cannot avoid betrayals, hatred, blackmail, jealousy, anger, or foolishness. If we must eliminate these vices in our movement by avoiding such characters entirely, Our sphere would be too small, and I am afraid we would achieve the opposite of our expectations. I will also be a sign of weakness, not the strength we know we have. Let's increase the vigilance, but abound in love towards all. All of us are capable of these vices. It is probably the temptations or trials that differ. I call on all government officials from all tiers to keep your doors open, because even the worst of Jesus' disciple, Peter, could still become the chief apostle. Some people followed what they believed was the right thing because they realized it was not so. Some people snap under pressure and make the dumbest utterances, but they are not bad people. Some people were manipulated, they read the Constitution upside down, were lied to, shown ungwa, ekele fabricated evidences of crimes, listened to the sayings of people with the lying spirit, and were blinded by accumulated hate, anger, or ambition. So they fell and rose again, but thank God they did not fall away. What should we be doing to these ones? Push them over the cliff? That is food for thought. To all the departments, arms, or organs of the interim government, remember that we fight to kill the enemy, but when it comes to our fellow Ambazonians, we should fight to win, not to kill. Our struggle has gotten to the place where the enemy is at his weakest point. With a collapsing social fabric, economic collapse, a largely demoralized military, a leadership vacuum, and a fierce secession battle looming, our enemy is bleeding. But unfortunately, this is when some of our compatriots think they should join the enemy instead and fight the interim government. Slow down the firepower, even if that means going down on our knees to beg our crippled adversary. Our valiant population is not spared from his evil enterprise. From Oku to Mbalangi and Towe in Boya, our people are being manipulated to stage CPDM-style marches to protest atrocity crimes largely orchestrated by the notorious Bankui and Atanganji vigilantes across Ambazonia. La Republic de Cameroon used the scorched earth policy, torture and terror, and criminal atrocities to break our spirits so that they can quickly turn our populations against the war. Biya's genocidal regime now thinks their strategy has sufficiently crushed the will of our population, so they send the regime apologists with little money to rally the unsuspecting suffering populations to protest against the ARFs who are defending themselves instead of the assailants who brought the war to Amazonia. We forgive our population for their ignorance, but henceforth that will not be accommodated. All those who engage in such manipulations shall be treated as enablers of genocide and backlegs. We are fighting for a livelihood and not a morsel of bread. We are fighting for posterity, not for ourselves. We are fighting for our restored independence, not freedom. Freedom can mean anything. We are fighting for a nation of our dream, where we will be first-class citizens again, a haven of liberty, a cradle of democracy, progress, and happiness for all. Viva the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. May God bless Ambazonia. 9th April 2022, signed Samuel Ikomi Sako, PhD, President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. There is no doubt that these words will inspire generations unborn.
Adare for brigade. Sabulai! Life! Adare for brigade. Infime. You are under the command of Himasha Institute. A very deadly attack here in Kumbu town. This attack was led by General General Ratokandu. His life in the field. life in the field. It's life. Life. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's what I do. They push me forward and they see. They make me happy and they see. They push me forward and they see. They make me happy and they see. Me, I want quite a thing to flip joy. Yeah, but Marabu, no stop me to shine. I see for your body. Put your hands up, make me the tanga. Say, come on, I'm alive today, my life in a testimony. Baba God, I will give you the praises. Baba God, if not for you, Jai, I'm on the push me forward and they see you. They make me happy and they see you. They push me forward and they see you. They make me happy and they see you. She pack that destiny, my God. We know how.
Our very own FM Isobu has been shot dead. His plans and aspiration to see a great Ambazonia cut short. Sad indeed. Details show that his movement up to Romajai was noticed by the Unity warriors who laid ambush, knowing that he would be coming back. Who else will be fit to carry this huge responsibility and fill the vacuum? Let's listen to Star Smart.
Field Marshal Isobu, as we speak, is dead and very dead. It is breathtaking to even present this report coming in from the Bowie County security team. On that fateful day at midday, there was a sudden attack on the Bui warriors' position of guard at Konowata Mve by the Bui Unity Warriors BUW, but nothing happened as it was a hit and run by the BUW. An alert on this situation to FM Isobu on what had just transpired made it that he decided to visit the community mosque at Romajai, where the Unity Warriors are based, to explain to the elders of that community to advise the Unity Warriors to desist from constantly attacking him and his boys. He successfully got to the mosque and talked with the community leaders after the 3 p.m. prayers and left, and went back to the Mve market by 4 p.m. when the incident occurred. Details show that his movement up to Ramajai was noticed by the Unity warriors who laid ambush knowing that he would be coming back. At the point of ambush, one of the BUW ordered for them to shoot, but one of them asked what his crime was that they were shooting at him. His fellow tigers of their BUW shot and killed him for asking such a question. Reason why there were 2 casualties is reported by some sources. They further shot at Isobu and killed him. He was laid to rest late last night, and a replacement for him has been found in a certain Talk and Do. As we speak, Talk and Do is getting set for a new responsibility of leading the Bui warriors in the quest for an independent Ambazonia, with the struggle to continue. That was it. On behalf of the Undaunted team, I wish to say, Isobu, rest in power.
While coup plotters, enablers, and blacklists are scheming to dismantle the struggle, the president and his team are strategically working to kick out the colonialists from Ambazonia completely, or to force them to meet Ambazonia on the negotiating tables in Switzerland. The Department of Resource Mobilization, doing what they know how to do best, has already started. Stay smart. Update us, please.
For those who have been following the evolution of our God-ordained struggle, they'll understand that the occupier regime of Yaoundé and their patrons in Paris have had as their main objective the decapitation and destruction of any legitimate leadership for the Amazonian people. In a previous editorial, we at Amba TV pointed out the direct link between the pioneer government of the Southern Cameroons, led by Dr. EML Ndele, and the current government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. The relentless efforts of the enemy to infiltrate, destabilize, and bring down this revolutionary government must therefore be seen in that light. An attempt to delegitimize our leadership structures. The current phase of our long struggle to restore the independence, statehood, and sovereignty of our nation that started in late 2016 with the common law lawyers and teachers strike is.
We sincerely apologize for that mix-up. We have the video for paper 3 right now. While coup plotters, enablers, and blacklegs are scheming to dismantle the struggle, the president and his team are strategically working to kick out the colonialists from Ambazonia completely, or to force them to meet Ambazonia on the negotiating tables in Switzerland. The Department of Resource Mobilization, doing what they know how to do best, has already started. Star Smart will update us again on this particular movement.
The Department of Resource Mobilization has created a working group titled Award 22. Think tank of over 40 comrades putting strategies together to ensure a kickstart of the Amba War draft as instructed by the president immediately. They have held 2 meetings already. Summary of discussions: Award Think Tank Zoom meeting April 8, 2022. Meeting called to order 20:45 Amba time by Department of Resource Mobilization DORM. Recording started a bit later. Prayer, minute of silence, and anthem courtesy of Ma Dorothy and Ma Pei. Guest speaker Dr. Mungwa. The need for us to define and brand ourselves about what we are doing in terms of our 1. Vision, 2. Mission, and 3. System as is applicable in successful enterprises and being intrinsically motivational. Various ideas came up to define our system in a catchy write-up to be produced by the team of writers Magilda, Maendele, Mr. Steve, towards a free Ambazonia, is a tentative title amongst others, 300 to 500 words. Recommend award draft amount $1,000. Modification as may be necessary. Pensioners at local government area levels. Draft rota plan to be worked on. Certificates for 2021 to be out at the end of April 2022. Final words, Dr. Mungwa appreciated the attendees up to 19 at some point and the resonance about the need to brand our cause for even greater achievements. Next meeting on Sunday, agenda, time, and link to follow. Screenshots of the chat forum. Ambazonia is a land that objects to corruption and embraces accountability, equal opportunity, progress, and love. Ma Endele.
Shanghai residents claim quarantine facilities have insufficient staff, shortage of food. People can be seen complaining about the insufficient staff and shortage of food at the isolation sites amid a lockdown in the city. They are fighting over limited resources such as water, food, and blankets, which are considered basic amenities. The video has been shared thousands of times on Chinese social media platforms such as Weibo and WeChat. A Chinese user who shared the video said, in his words, I quote, "If you can, please use us expose the situation. It's so scary. Nobody is managing the situation properly." Several people at the designated field hospital could not get any of the supplies being distributed because by the time they reached the front of the queue, nothing was left. The lockdown in Shanghai has created a situation of panic with people rushing to acquire as much as possible before they are unable to do so. Complaining about the horrible conditions at the quarantine site, another Chinese social media user wrote, and I quote, "Can you take a look at the Nahu hospital site? My mom tested positive and was at home for a week, laying low, and she recovered, yet they still recklessly took her away. When she arrived, she had to snatch a room for herself. Nothing was fixed. People testing positive and negative, all mixed together. There was no hot water, no healthcare workers, no nurses. There was nothing. People had to fight over food and water, and chaos and confusion was over the limit." As Shanghai battles the Omicron wave amid the lockdown, China's state-run Global Times said authorities had deployed 38,000 health workers during testing, which is the largest number of medical aid since the virus broke out in Wuhan over 2 years ago. Medical workers were sent from at least 15 provinces. The state-run newspaper informed us about this. The newspaper added that health workers had achieved the mission, in quotes, mission impossible, as the finished scan sampling of 25 million residents. All Shanghai residents had taken a nuclear acid coronavirus test on Monday, which was the largest COVID-19 exercise as far in China. Health officials said that after the sampling, testing and review will take place. The authorities have asked residents to remain at home until test results are announced. China continues to stick with its zero COVID-19 policy. However, the number of coronavirus cases has reached record level in the past month, surpassing cases recorded 2 years ago when the virus was first reported in Wuhan. Health officials in Shanghai conducted antigen testing in the city in a bid to cut the transmission chain. The present wave is being led by the Omicron variant as officials revealed they had detected a new Omicron subtype in Zhou near Shanghai, tentatively calling it Bao 1.1. Still smart. I understand you have been researching the untold stories of COVID-19. What do you have first?
For those who have been following the evolution of our God-ordained struggle, they will understand that the occupier regime of Yaoundé and their patrons in Paris have had as their main objective the decapitation and destruction of any legitimate leadership for the Amazonian people. In a previous editorial, we at Amba TV pointed out the direct link between the pioneer government of the Southern Cameroons, led by Dr. EML Ndele, and the current government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. The relentless efforts of the enemy to infiltrate, destabilize, and bring down this revolutionary government must therefore be seen in that light. An attempt to delegitimize our leadership structures. The current phase of our long struggle to restore the independence, statehood, and sovereignty of our nation that started in late 2016 with the common law lawyers and teachers strike is in its fifth year now. And based on the latest attempts to infiltrate and illegally depose the President of the Republic, it's once more clear that the enemy is still at work. When the struggle gained steam with the formation of the consortium in December 2016, the Yaoundé regime decided to strike by abducting the leaders of the movement, like Consortium President Barrister Okpala, its Secretary General Dr. Fontaine Neba Mancho. We Undaunted will always bring to you at last two sides of the story. The war in Ukraine replaces the headlines, but there's something about COVID-19 we believe mainstream is concealing. I will start with Kafka's true stories of ordinary people inside the first days of COVID-19 in Wuhan, China. She says that Australia has lived through two tumultuous years as the COVID-19 pandemic has swept through Australia. Prime Minister Scott Morrison took the lead for domestic political purposes in calling for an investigation into the origins of the virus in the Chinese city of Wuhan. In January 2021, China finally agreed to let an international team of experts led by the World Health Organization into Wuhan to investigate. The findings of the team were inconclusive because the Chinese authorities were not very cooperative and refused to approve a follow-up investigation. Now infiltrating Wuhan, people who were curious to know why China is so resistant to outside investigation should read this book, Deadly Quiet City, Stories from Wuhan, COVID Ground Zero, Murong Zukun. Now, let's get the stories. Its author, Murong Zukun, is a popular Chinese novelist known for his critical stance towards the Chinese government. The book collects the true stories of 8 people in Wuhan who endured the early months of the pandemic, from November 2019 to April 2020. From when the first signs of the virus were detected to when China declared the party's victorious conquest of COVID in Wuhan. Murong himself was not in Wuhan for most of that period. Risking his own safety, he sneaked into the city in April, interviewed 8 people about their experiences, and then fled to another province where he booked into a hotel and wrote up his interviews. He then departed China and is currently staying in London. He has escaped the fate of being denounced, silenced, or even imprisoned, as has happened to several other citizen journalists who had gone to Wuhan and reported on social media about what had transpired. Murong's revelations are different from the other writers' postings. The 8 true narratives in Deadly Quiet City are told in the first person by Murong, who skillfully captures their thoughts and feelings, their fears, their encounters with death, their anger, their losses. Each story provides background information, placing the featured individuals in context, then follows the reaction to the catastrophe of those few months from November to April. Critical moments from virus discovery to lifting lockdowns, Murong meticulously marked the dates and even times of critical moments when doctors and scientists first noticed the virus. The date when Li Wenliang first alerted his circle of colleagues that a deadly new disease had stricken his hospital patients, only to be warned by local officials to stay silent. The day he died from the virus, the dates of important official announcements, the day the World Health Organization confirmed the virus was a human-to-human transmittable variant, the date Wuhan was locked down and the date the lockdown was lifted. We learned what each of the 8 individuals was doing during this period. An old illegal motorcyclist taxi driver at the bottom of the economic and social ladder was grateful that the pandemic had helped him make a bit more money because there was no other means of public transport. He ferried infected people back and forth between homes and hospitals and waited in queues as his clients desperately tried to get admitted. Another of the 8, a writer and member of the middle class whose online essay is tended to be critical of the government, managed to fly out of Wuhan to Guangzhou at 4 in the morning on the night of the lockdown was announced. On hearing of Li's death, he immediately started an online campaign, Never Forget Li Wenliang, to crowdfund a statue of the doctor. Within a couple of days, the State Security Bureau put him under house arrest. Heartless bureaucrats and democrats. Heartless bureaucrats and humanitarians. Some of the 8 of their relatives contracted COVID. They recounted their encounters with heartless bureaucrats in graphic details. Some of them had lined up for hours trying to see a doctor or desperately made dozens of phone calls to friends and relatives who might have contact with power that be to be able to find a hospital bed. Most had seen the chaos in hospitals, crying, begging, patients collapsing or dying while waiting. A hospital cleaner had propped up her sick husband on a bicycle to search for a hospital that would take him. Those who successfully got into the hospital were slapped with medical bills totaling a year or 2 of their annual wage. They all confronted dismissive, careless bureaucrats trying hard to shift responsibilities. If they complained on social media, describing their sorry state, begging for help, and trying to raise money, they invited the presence of the police. The stories also record humanitarian responses. The motorcyclist taxi driver had waived charges for sick people poorer than him. Pleas on social media for help to pay medical bills brought in needed money. Another of the 8, Zhang Zhan, a citizen journalist who traveled to Wuhan when she heard news of the pandemic, was able to raise enough money to allow her to stay in Wuhan to post her daily reports on social media. In May, she went missing. It was later revealed that she is in jail, sentenced to 4 years. She has been adopted by Amnesty International as a prisoner of conscience, and the latest news is that she is on a hunger strike. Amplifying authoritarianism, there are many things we can learn about China from these 8 stories. COVID has amplified the problems of an authoritarian system, endemic bureaucratic inefficiency, contemptuous treatment of the masses, shedding off responsibility, yet readiness to trade favors and succumb to corruption. COVID has also exposed China's broken medical system. This is not news to anybody's attention to China, but it's educational to see how the malfunctions play out in such detail. Politics overrides science. Li and his colleagues were interrogated and punished for telling the truth, forced to make official confessions. Then, when Li's warning proved correct and went viral on social media, he was exonerated posthumously by the authorities, who declared him a national hero in order to placate the Wuhan residents' anger. As becomes clear in the book, doctors and nurses in small hospitals earn paltry monthly salaries, less than even poor migrant factory workers. They also need to toe the party line. As an example, hospitals, all under party management, were instructed to falsify their statistics in order to shrink the infection and death rates, so as to satisfy the national authority policy keeping those rates low. Since deaths outside hospitals were deliberately not recorded, isolation wards were emptied of dying patients by sending them home, infecting their own families. A doctor lamented there was nothing he could do to prevent this when the virus was partially under control. Even though people were still lining up to get into hospitals, the Wuhan authorities celebrated the party's conquest of the virus with great fanfare. A woman who would not be coaxed into accepting monetary compensation for the death of her daughter made a scene on the street, marching with her daughter's portrait and crying for justice. She received a phone call from the police in no time, telling her not to publish sensitive remarks unless this would have a negative influence on the country. You must be vigilant against hostile anti-China forces. Don't let them use you, she finally acquiesced after being put under surveillance for several months. These are sad stories documenting Kafka's experience of ordinary Chinese people. Is that the others, except for Zhang Zhan, who refuse to pulling out the lies, either lament their bad fate or half-heartedly or wholeheartedly accept the party's propaganda. Domestic social stability and national security trump all other concerns. There is more about COVID-19 than what you have been told, and be rest assured we will make it available for your consumption. Story Smart reporting for Undaunted, ABC, Amba News.
Thank you so much, Star Smart, for that exclusive report on COVID-19. Ukraine's president and Russian troops retreating from the north left thousands of mines in a deliberate act he considered a war crime. Ukraine is investigating some 5,800 cases of alleged Russian war crimes, according to its prosecutor general. Austria's chancellor said his meeting on Monday with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow was not a friendly visit, and he raised alleged Russian atrocities in Ukraine during the tough talks. Ukrainian officials said more than 4,000 people were evacuated on Monday from areas where fighting continues, including a few hundred from the besieged city of Mariupol. Unverified reports emerged on Monday of a possible strike involving chemical substances in Mariupol. Zelensky warned that the possibility should be taken seriously, though local and U.S. officials said any of such strike and attack had not been confirmed. We have not covered the stories in Ukraine for some time now, but our watch has been quite close. The possible usage of chemical weapon strikes are concerned, and Gab Ellison has a coverage. Let's hear him.
First of all, it is important to note that Ukrainian forces could end the Russian siege of Mariupol if supplied with heavy weapons. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his video address on Monday, "When it comes to the necessary weapons, we still depend on the supply, on our partners. Unfortunately, we are not getting as much as we need to end this war sooner, to completely destroy the enemy on our land, and to fulfill those tasks that are obvious to each of our people. In particular, to unblock Mariupol," Zelensky said. "If we got jets and enough heavy armored vehicles, the necessary artillery, we would be able to do it," he said. "But we still have to agree on this. We still have to persuade. We still have to squeeze out the necessary decisions. I am sure that we will get almost everything we need. But not only time is being lost, the lives of Ukrainians are being lost, lives that can no longer be returned." Now, the United States has confirmed the use of chemical weapons in Mariupol, but had previously warned the Ukrainians that Russia could use chemical agents in the southeastern Ukrainian city, state the spokesman Ned Price told CNN Monday. After reports emerged Monday of a possible strike involving chemical substances of some kind in Mariupol, the Ukrainian president warned the possibility should be taken seriously, though a Mariupol official said any such attack remained unconfirmed. The UK has said it is also working with partners to investigate the reports. That's where we are in the war in Ukraine. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Nigerian Vice President Yemi Osibanjo has officially declared his intention to run in next year's presidential election, ending months of speculations and denials. Professor Sibanjo, a lawyer, hopes to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari, whose tenure ends next May. He was elected as Buhari's deputy in 2015. While we'll get into the details of this story in our subsequent newscast, Stay Smart, tell us what's happening across the continent.
In East Africa, Somaliland market fire. UN team dispatched to back needs assessment. In response to the destruction caused by a blaze in Hargeisa, the United Nations deployed an interagency team of technical experts to work with the government and the response committee to assess the damage and support the rebuilding of a marketplace. On the site of what used to be Somaliland's largest market, only ruins are left. More than a week after a fire ravaged the Wahin market in central Hargeisa, the United Nations deployed an interagency team to work with the government, and their task is immense. The market spread out over 5 square kilometers. The destruction of many goods has led to scarcity and inflation in the city. The other dramatic consequence is that hundreds of business owners like Zainab Hassan Wasame are now penniless. My boutique used to stock clothes and I used to sell all types of clothes, she says. It was a big boutique. I used to feed my elderly parents, my children, as well as my daughter's children. In total, 10 people's livelihoods depended on my business. I was the only breadwinner for my family and they depended on this boutique, but it is no more. In West Africa, over 72 million subscribers in Nigeria disconnected from their lines. Many subscribers in Nigeria are disappointed with government's directives to disconnect their lines. Over 72 million subscribers in Nigeria were recently barred from using their lines. This comes as the government's directive became effective on April 4th. The affected subscribers are worried that they could not make outgoing from their mobile phones because it has been deactivated. I feel so bad I cannot make calls, but I can receive calls. It is a mess and the government should try and rectify the situation. That was Goswill Otopa, a subscriber. Still in Nigeria, dozens killed and abducted in gang raids in northern Plateau State. Dozens of people have been killed and many others abducted in a series of raids in Plateau State in central Nigeria. Gunmen on dozens of motorbikes attacked at least 4 remote villages in the Kanam area on Sunday. They also stole livestock and burned down dozens of homes. It's the latest in a spate of attacks by armed gangs in northern parts of Africa's most populous nation. While uncommon in Plateau, the state shares a border with Kaduna where suspected bandits blew up train tracks, killed 8 people and kidnapped dozens last month. Last week, 15 soldiers were killed by gunmen who attacked a Kaduna army base. Police and local officials confirmed the attack but did not specify the casualty figures. Residents say this is the worst violence they've ever known in that area. They are complaining that security forces who were stretched fighting an Islamist insurgency in the northeast took nearly 24 hours to arrive after the raid. We are not leaving West Africa as yet. This time in Ivory Coast, Didier Drogba 5 orders to run for Football Federation president. It would appear Africa's best of all time, Samuel Eto'o, has set the stage. Ivorian soccer star Didier Drogba and 5 others have filed their candidacy for the presidency of the Ivorian Football Federation. The Ivorian Football Federation, FIF, has announced the filing of candidacy for the presidency of the Ivorian Football Federation is closed. 6 candidates have been registered. They are Yate Elele, Jean-Baptiste, Arna Aka, Norwe Kwaku, Idris Diallo, Sori Diabate, and Didier Drogba, said Maria Gabala, president of the FIF Normalization Committee, at a press conference. Didier Drogba came to submit his candidacy earlier in the afternoon on Sunday at the headquarters of the federation. The 44-year-old is optimistic he would emerge the winner of the election, which is expected to take place on April 23, according to the Ivorian Football Federation. Finally, here we are. I can't wait for the campaign to start. I can't wait for the campaign to start. Trust me to give life to Ivorian football if I am elected, he said, praising his unity candidacy. Ahead of the election, the Electoral Commission is expected on Friday, April 15th, to make public the list of candidates authorized to run. Despite his status, he is not necessarily the favorite in this election due to a lack of support from Ivorian clubs. The election has already been postponed several times since 2020 due to an imbroglio over the sponsorship system for candidates. The FIF had been placed under supervision in December 2020 by FIFA, which installed a normalization committee to try to resolve this crisis. We are ready for these elections and we must show a good image of Côte d'Ivoire to a peaceful election. I ask everyone not to add to the crisis, Dao Gabala said on Sunday.
More than ever, we must stand firm in our fight for freedom. Remember, he who stands for nothing falls for everything. More than ever, we must allow peace, love, harmony to thrive within and around us as Ambazonians. Dear Ambazonians, We are at a critical juncture in this struggle, and we must know that the enemy will not stop in its attempt to infiltrate, destabilize, and destroy the current interim government led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. The current phase of our struggle to restore the independence and sovereignty, of which started in the late 2016 with lawyers and teachers strike, is already in its fifth year. I mean, 5 years already. And based on the latest attempt to infiltrate and illegally depose the President of the Republic, is once more clear, crystal clear, that the enemy is still at work. And just like he, the President, we always say, the friend of our enemy is our enemy. This is an editorial you would like to listen. Over to you, Star Smart.
For those who have been following the evolution of our God-ordained struggle, they'll understand that the occupier regime of Yaoundé and their patrons in Paris have had as their main objective the decapitation and destruction of any legitimate leadership for the Amazonian people. In a previous editorial, we at Amba TV pointed out the direct link between the pioneer government of the Southern Cameroons, led by Dr. EML Ndele, and the current government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. The relentless efforts of the enemy to infiltrate, destabilize, and bring down this revolutionary government must therefore be seen in that light. An attempt to delegitimize our leadership structures. The current phase of our long struggle to restore the independence, statehood, and sovereignty of our nation that started in late 2016 with the common law lawyers and teachers strike is in its fifth year now. And based on the latest attempts to infiltrate and illegally depose the President of the Republic, it's once more clear that the enemy is still at work. When the struggle gained steam with the formation of the consortium in December 2016, the Yaoundé regime decided to strike by abducting the leaders of the movement, like consortium president Barrister Okpala, its secretary general Dr. Fontaine Neba, Mancho Bibixi, Pen Terence Khan, and others. They did this because it was a leadership that had political legitimacy and represented the aspirations and will of the vast majority of Southern Cameroonians. It's not surprising, therefore, that the decree banning the consortium, Decree number 00000009 of 17th January 2017, and signed by the then Minister of Territorial Administration, Emmanuel René Sadi, also Anglophone Conference 1, AAC 1, and the All Anglophone Conference 2, AAC 2, held in Boya and Bamenda respectively in the early 90s. It's therefore against this history that we must view the latest attempts at destabilization and the destruction of the legitimate Amazonian government led by Dr. Samuel Sako with the complicity of treacherous cabinet members and an infiltrated restoration council. Our struggle is based on history, legality, and political legitimacy. These are the three pillars that our struggle stands on, and unable to alter the history or challenge the legality of our statehood based on United States resolutions and international law, the Yaoundé occupation regime has been trying to delegitimize our leadership structures and going after leaders like Sissokou Ayub Tabe, abducted in Nigeria in early January 2018 and currently serving a life sentence in Cameroon Central Prison. After abducting Sissokou, the Amazonian people, through a legitimate process, elected Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. Shortly after, as acting interim president and later as president of the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. My dear comrades, since the selection of Dr. Sako, the Yaoundé regime has been working tirelessly to topple his government, just as they did with Bala and Sissokou, to make sure that the Amazonian struggle has no legitimate, strong, and patriotic leaders anymore. My dear comrades, we are at a critical juncture in this struggle, And we must know that the enemy will not stop in its attempts to infiltrate, destabilize, and destroy the current interim government led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako as a means of delegitimizing the struggle. As I have recounted earlier, after attempting to destroy the consortium by arresting its leaders, the Yawande regime with the conspiracy of Nigeria went after Sisiku Ayub Tabe and the entire cabinet of the interim government in Nigeria. Abducting them, they thought that the struggle would collapse for lack of strong political leadership. However, in our infinite wisdom and by God's intervention, we were able to elect another great Amazonian patriot in the name of Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako to continue leading us on our journey to Boya. His determination and resoluteness and the strong backing that the current interim government has for Southern Cameroon's Amazonians on the ground and in the diaspora has been a great flesh of the enemy. And as I stated earlier, our struggle for freedom and for the restoration of our statehood rests on its history, legality, and political legitimacy. We will expand on these three areas in future editorials, if only to remind our people that our struggle is just and right. It's however crucial that we stay vigilant and expect more attempts by the enemy to subvert our current interim government. That's why at all costs we must stand tall in defense of the interim government of Amazonia led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. That's the legitimate government of Amazonia, a structure the enemy hates and will do everything to destroy.
And this is a special announcement. Right after the news, our news director, Tapati King, will be live to show you how and why coup plotters in alliance with Cho Ayoba killed Esobu. Right after that, Secretary Martin Mungwa will come up with the Liberation Movement's weekly briefings. There will be live calls, so stay tuned because your questions and worries will definitely be attended to today. And now to sports. Son Heung-min's hat-trick kept Tottenham's Premier League top four destiny in their own hands. Analysis of the Premier League match day 32 of the English Premier League continues today. FIFA appoints Gelson Fernandez as Director Member Association Africa. Sierra Leone have appointed Chris Silverwood as their men's head coach. Gab Elliston has the complete detail.
World Sports Premier League. Son Heung-min's hat-trick kept Tottenham's Premier League top four destiny in their own hands as Spurs produced a masterclass in clinical finishing to trash Aston Villa. After the South Korea striker steered the visitors into an early lead, Spurs withstood a Villa onslaught to remain ahead at the interval, with veteran goalkeeper Hugo Lloris making a string of superb saves. But they cruised to victory with a breathtaking counter-attacking second-half performance as Son swept home two more fine finishes, either side of an equally elegant strike from Dejan Kulusevski. A fourth successful win moved Antonio Conte's side 3 points above North London rivals Arsenal, beaten at home by Brighton early on Saturday in the race for the fourth Champions League spot. League matches. Premier League. Match day 32 of the English Premier League continues today, with the first game being Brentford fresh from a win against Chelsea, playing host to West Ham United. Leicester City will not have an easy task when they exchange lessons with Crystal Palace at the King Power Stadium. There will be a relegation battle when bottom side Norwich City lock horns with rivals Burnley. The last game in the Premier League will be a top-of-the-table clash. Many sports pundits have attributed it to a title-deciding game. It will be first-place Manchester City locking horns with second-place Liverpool. Both teams are separated by 1 point, and the winner of the game could potentially win the title with just few match days left. La Liga. In match day 31 of the Spanish La Liga, Osasuna will be playing host to bottom side Alaves. Espanyol and Celta Vigo, who are on the same point, will go head-to-head. Elche will be hoping to distance themselves from the relegation zone when they entertain top four chasers Real Sociedad. Levante, who are second from bottom, will have an uphill task to stop an informed Barcelona, who are in the form of their life. Serie A. Title challengers Napoli will continue their quest for the title when they entertain Fiorentina at the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. Sassuolo will exchange lessons with Atalanta. Venezia, who are second from bottom, will be playing host to Udinese. Jose Mourinho's Roma will battle things out with bottom side Sportiva at home. Torino will conclude the day with a mouth-watering fixture against league leaders AC Milan. FIFA appoints Gelson Fernandez as Director Member Associations, Africa. The 35-year-old with Cabo Verdean roots is taking over the task of overseeing FIFA services to strengthen development of the African member associations. The former Swiss international midfielder will carry out his stated duties through the FIFA Forward program that assists federations to continue to develop. He will take up the new role on August 1st, 2022. Fernandez grew up in Switzerland and developed his footballing skills at FC Sion, where he currently holds the position of Vice President. We are delighted to have Gelson joining the FIFA team, said FIFA President Gianni Infantino. Gelson had a fantastic career as a footballer, and the experience he gained will be important to carry out his task to the best of his ability. I have no doubt that Gelson will do some excellent work for us, and we welcome him to our team. Sri Lanka. Chris Silverwood is appointed as Sri Lanka coach on a 2-year deal. Sri Lanka has appointed Chris Silverwood as their men's head coach. Former bowler Silverwood left his 2-year role as head coach of England men in February following the heavy Ashes defeat in Australia. He was previously in charge of Essex, who he led to their first county championship title in 25 years in 2017. Silverwood has signed a 2-year deal with Sri Lanka and will take charge of the side for their 2-test tour of Bangladesh. I am very excited to be on board with Sri Lanka, Silverwood said. They have a talented and passionate group of players, and I am really looking forward to meeting up with the players and coaching staff very soon. Silverwood, 47, was previously England's bowling coach before he replaced Trevor Bayliss in 2017. However, England particularly struggled in Test cricket during his tenure, including a 4-0 thrashing in the Ashes. Sri Lanka are 7th in the World Test rankings and were beating 2-0 in their recent series against India. They have been without a full-time head coach since Mickey Arthur left in December. Chris is an extremely experienced coach, and from our discussions with him, it is clear he has the required qualities. We are looking forward to take the team forward, added Ashley De Silva, Chief Executive of Sri Lanka Cricket. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. Tonight on Undaunted, we told you that the first joint session of the Interim House of Representatives was a solemn occasion. Observers say the presence of Pa Augustine Ndangam was a proof of legitimacy to the IG. Reports on what transpired in Kumbo local government area, Bui County, on the 8th of April 2022 confirmed that Field Marshal Isobu was betrayed and killed by coup plotters in alliance with the ADF. Responding to the commission by the President, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, the Department of Resource Mobilization is warming up to start the news. And on the foreign scene, we told you that the war in Ukraine has replaced COVID-19 in the mainstream, and we asked what was next. We brought you an editorial titled, "More Than Ever Now, We Must Stand by the Legitimate Government of Ambazonia," led by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako. And in sports, we brought to you the analysis of the Premier League as we enter day 32 of the English Premier League. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news on top stories. I am Onyi Okpala. We leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Thanks for watching.
Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems. Don't you hate it when that happens to you? When it does, you need this and this and this. When it happens to me, I always know where to go. When you've got professionals on your side, your problems don't stand a chance. What are you waiting for? Contact them today and let them take care of your problems.